Let's talk. No monkeying around. Hate might be a really strong word, so maybe I really strongly, intensely dislike exercise for exercise's sake. Actually, just the person that doesn't think to exercise. It doesn't even cross my mind. Unlike my husband, who thinks exercise is the answer to everything. You've got a headache, you need to take a walk. Not feeling the greatest, you need a walk. Got a cold, you need a walk. You got COVID, you need a walk. That's always been his motto. And lucky for me that it always has been, because I probably would not have exercised over the last 30 years without him, apart from the usual daily thing. I would have missed out on snorkeling in reefs and seeing things that I wouldn't normally see because he demanded I just get in the water. And if you're that person that won't get in because you don't think you can climb back into the boat or things like that, I feel you, because I didn't want to. And it was the most embarrassing thing in my life to have my husband pushing me from behind and the guy that ran the tour boat pulling me from the top. But I got to experience what was under the water. So it's horrible, but you miss out on life when you don't do the things that you consider in your head to be exercise. You've got lipedema, you've probably heard by now, and if you haven't, this might be news to you, that you can't exercise or diet away the lipedema fat. Once it's gone into that interstitial tissue, the only way of removing it is through liposuction and surgery. So why would you want to exercise? It's a good question, right? What's the point? What is the point when everything hurts? Your knees hurt, your back hurts, the feeling of cement in your legs every footstep you take. Why would you do that? Well, first of all, cardiovascular health. Just because we have lipedema and can't exercise away that fat doesn't mean to say our heart doesn't still need cardiovascular exercise. So that's a big thing. That's a big reason. We also need to exercise to increase our strength and flexibility, to improve our bone density. And the more muscle we have, the higher our metabolism. So it will help to avoid weight coming on if we have more muscle. One of the biggest reasons we need to exercise with lipedema is because our lymphatics need us to move to be able to get around the body. So this is a problem with lymphatics. Lipedema is a lymphatic issue. If you imagine that your lymphatic fluid, which goes through your body, much like your blood, is like butter. If it's warm and it's melted and it flows easily, right? So like melted butter. If you are cold and stagnant and not moving around, then it will be hard and not moving through your lymphatic vessel. We also need to move for our lymphatics because it doesn't have a pump. Our blood vessels have a pump, the heart, okay? But our lymphatics do not. They have one-way valves that only open to let the lymphatic fluid get to where it needs to be, to dump it out into the system through movement, which is why rebounders are often called lymphosizers. It's that movement of going up and down on the rebounder opens those valves, keeps your lymphatic fluid flowing so that it can go up and move through the body. So lymphatic fluid goes through your body, goes through all the lymph nodes, which are like garbage bins as well, collects lots of junk, and then it dumps out here in your subclavian veins, which is often when you press around here, it can hurt. If that hurts, your lymphatic fluid is blocked and building up here. So that's a really good test. And years ago, mine used to always hurt. If you pressed in here, man, I would go through the roof. Now that I'm doing it for you, I'm like, oh, I've come a long way. It does not hurt anymore. I can press as hard as I like. It doesn't hurt. So that would be, to me, the biggest reason why you would want to exercise. Even after I've lost weight, a significant amount of weight, if you've been following me for a long time, and I look like I'm on top of everything, I just went away for a few weeks, and coming back, I'd actually lost weight, which is going to be the topic of my live this weekend, Couple with Kylie, if you want to join me. I lost weight, even though I was eating not the best, not my usual carnivore, but I was moving. We had so much to do down there, and I was constantly on the move. Is that why I lost weight, even though I ate very questionable foods many times? Who knows? But my lymphatics kept moving. So what do we need to do? This is what I've been trying to work out for myself to keep our lymphatics healthy for lipedema, to stop the progression, because that's my only concern right now. And I would encourage you to think of it in that way. Even if you've got lots of weight to lose, it's not all necessarily lipedema weight. You want to stop it progressing. To me, that's your priority. That's my priority, is to stop the lipedema progressing, because even though I've lost weight, the lipedema can continue to grow. If you've seen my other videos, you'll see that even after losing 60 kilos, I have still got the very clear signs of lipedema. That fat is still there. I have lost all the other fat, but what is remaining now is the lipedema fat. First of all, before you start exercising, please do what I did and go and have an MRI on your knees. I was trying to exercise my way out of sore knees. Thought it was just the weight that I needed to conquer, and that was what was causing the problems on my knee. When I had an MRI, it turns out my knees were completely shot. And my surgeon even said to me, "Can you please stop exercising? You're just making matters worse." So please, if you have bad knees, which is a common side effect or symptom of lipedema, have your knees checked if they're causing you problems before you start any kind of exercise. I ended up having a double knee replacement. So this was long before I had weight loss surgery. This was, I say long, it was 2 years before I had weight loss surgery. Would they have improved after weight loss? No. I had 4 meniscal tears. I had a ruptured ACL. I was bone on bone. So it depends on where your knees are at, but please get them checked before you start anything. The first thing is walking. We need to move for our cardiovascular health. Now, I've got some tricks there. I hate walking for walking's sake. I do it because my husband loves it, and that's when we have our chatting time. But if you don't like walking, but you really like walking around the shops, that's where you should do your exercise. Get yourself a trolley. If you're not doing the groceries, then get yourself a trolley anyway if you need that stability to lean on, and walk. I have walked and walked in the shops, and now that I have a watch that counts my steps, I'm actually gobsmacked at how many thousands of steps you can get in just walking around the shops. Okay, you don't have to go fast. You're moving to keep that lymphatic fluid flowing and for your cardiovascular health. So if you need to be at the shops for 3 hours, leaning on your trolley as you walk around the shops, do that. It doesn't matter what other people are thinking. That's your exercise. Now, the next thing you could say is strength, but it is also about venous return. So if you've got lipedema issues with venous return not happening, so that's your blood and your lymphatics not coming back up to where it needs to recycle, then calf raises. These would be your most important exercise to do. My carnivore doctor down in Perth told me that calf raises can change the fat pad on the front of your legs. He's seen it. Whether that's true or not, I couldn't say because I haven't done it for myself. But calf raises, that's the muscle that we need to push the fluid back up and stop the ankles, the cuffing around the ankles, the fat pads on the knees. We don't put enough importance on the calf muscles. In fact, there is a lady on YouTube, her name is Glucose Goddess, and she also says that after a meal, if you've had carbs and sugars and things like that, to sit there and raise your, I'm doing it as we speak under the desk, raise your calves for 10 minutes. Apparently, there's something about that muscle that moves the insulin and gets things back to the way it should be. So I haven't done that after a meal because you don't remember, but I think it's just a habit thing. You need to get in the habit of doing these sorts of things. I have started doing calf raises in the shower to form a habit there. I have started doing 20 raises, and then you do 30 once your calves recover, because they will hurt. I'm telling you, they will hurt. Then you raise it by, a couple every day until you're doing maybe 50 or 100 calf raises while you're standing in the shower, which is good because you've got walls close to you to steady yourself, and you can keep doing that up and down. But doing it after a meal while you're sitting on the couch, awesome. Couch exercises, I'll put in a few ideas as I'm talking, but there are a lot of YouTube channels that do chair exercises. So if your mobility is not what it could be or not what it should be, and that's your reason for not walking or doing whatever you need to do, chair exercises, do anything. I like exercise that I can quantify, always have. So even when I was larger and really struggling, if I could quantify it, so I can go upstairs how many times, I can do 50 of this, I can do 20 of that. I love to quantify things because that's a dopamine hit, right? When we can cross off things off a list or get to a certain number, that's actually a dopamine release in our brain. So I've always done exercise when I've had to exercise, which is all the time with my husband. I've always found a way to do a quantifiable number or time or whatever, because it helps to me go, all right, yesterday I could only do 200 meters. Today I did 500 meters. After my knee surgery, double knee replacement, that's exactly what I did. We would see the distance that I could walk. And we look back now and go, remember after my double knee replacement, I was flat out walking 50 meters. You know, of course, I had 2 new knees. That's normal. But now I can walk 5 kilometers. So now 5 kilometers is my benchmark of, you know what, you can walk 5 kilometers easily. If you're going to do something better than that, then you up that amount. So anything that's quantifiable in your brain, even if it's, oh, I could walk up 2 steps today. No, I can walk up 3 steps today. It doesn't matter. Whatever's quantifiable and easy for you, with giving yourself a little nudge, something that's a little bit out of your comfort zone. Because if what you did today is better than what you did yesterday, then you're winning. What I don't want for everybody, because I've been there, I'm here, I'm in a different space, but I could see where I was heading. I was looking for photos and footage of me walking for this video. And I'm so glad that even though I felt disgusting in photos, my husband kept taking photos. I was actually looking for footage in Singapore because I know when we were there, we did 20,000 steps a day. I was at my biggest weight around, because that was right before I came back and signed up for weight loss surgery. But I could still walk it. It was painful, but because I was looking at other things, and this is my point about a shopping center, because I was looking at things and it was somewhere new, I kept walking, I kept going. But I didn't have any video footage of that because at that point, my husband knew most of the photos are from here, you know, here up. But there were some photos that he took of me full length, and I look at them now and I go, wow, I was tired. My legs felt heavy, but I did not understand just how big I had become. And I look at those now and I'm just gobsmacked. I'm really happy that I went through that journey of going, you know what, it doesn't matter what other people think, I'm going to give it a go, because now I can walk and walk and walk and it doesn't bother me. It doesn't hurt. If I'm eating the wrong foods, I will feel my legs. Interestingly enough, they won't hurt, but I will feel them. While we were down in Perth, I ate carbs. I ate all kinds of different. Sometimes we were really good. When we had the apartment that had the kitchen, we ate carnivore. The rest of the time in the hotel rooms, it was whatever was easy, not $80 on the menu, that kind of thing, because you do what you've got to do, right? But I did notice things started to hurt. So if you're not sure of whether or not your diet is contributing to the fact that you don't want to get up and walk or go to the shops or move because everything hurts, then I would highly recommend you address your diet, try a carnivore diet, and just see if your aches and pains. That's generally the first thing with people that go on carnivore. Their aches and pains go away. So give that a shot before you make a decision. But at the very least, get yourself a trolley, lean on it, walk around the shops. Do it for as long as you can until you're going to drop. Then get yourself home. Next to calf raises, you've got your rebounder, which you can stand on, watch the TV, watch a good YouTube channel. Highly recommend that. And just walk. right? Because then you can at least get off it when you've had enough. I don't have a rebounder that's got a handle on it, but a lot of rebounders come with a stand where you can lean against it and steady yourself. If you don't have one like that, well, then just make sure that you have somebody nearby to help you get off it, because as you can see with mine, it's pretty high. Now, mine is a bungee kind. If you've got bad knees, I learned recently, you should not be using a bungee type, but more the hard silver, metal springs. They're the type. There's a brand that I'm considering for when we go overseas to take with me, because it can literally fold down to carry-on luggage size. It's called a Sizer, and it is based on the original rebounder that NASA developed for their astronauts. That's how a rebounder was developed. A rebounder was developed for astronauts to regain their strength and their muscle, because a rebounder will exercise every cell in your body, including your muscles. So this Sizer has the springs in the certain direction and the certain capacity in a certain way that was developed by NASA. The one that I've got costs a lot of money, and I'm very hesitant to give it up until we leave Australia. At the moment, I'm just being very careful with my knees. Even though I have new knees, I'm just being very careful, and I tend to just walk on it or do what's called a health bounce. So that's another consideration, but it's also called a lymphocyzer. It will move your lymphatics. It's one of the best things for that. And you can do it in the comfort of your own lounge room. And that's why we leave it in our lounge room, because if it's tucked away somewhere, do you use it? No, we don't. We've put it in the spare room with the yoga mat laid out. Do we think to use it? No. Doesn't matter what your house looks like. If it's going to encourage you to move and to get your lymphatics flowing, put it right where you will see it and use it. The only other thing that I have done over the years is a stationary bike. I'm not great with bikes outside. I tend to fall off them, have done for a long time. But a stationary bike inside the house, set up in front of the TV. I've often wondered over the years, before I found out about lipedema, why when I rode a stationary bike, I would lose an inch off my thighs. And that's because you're moving your knees, right? You're doing that pump. It's the calf raises. Okay, so you're moving, any way that you're moving your joints is going to pump your lymphatics. So I now know why all those times, even when I was bigger and I couldn't lose all the weight, but I would significantly reduce the size of my thighs by sitting on a bike for an hour a day. So that's another one. So if you can find space for a stationary bicycle, I would recommend that as another option. So you need exercise to move your lymphatics, to stop the progression of lipedema. For cardiovascular health, you need to make it easy for yourself where you're at, whether that's walking up and down the one step, leaning on a trolley and walking through the shops for a couple of hours, whether that's getting a rebounder or a stationary bicycle for in your lounge room. It doesn't matter. Do whatever it is you can do, because you don't know what you don't know. And what happens with chronic disease, and lipedema is a chronic disease, it catches you slowly. You're not aware that it's creeping on, the weight, and you just go, oh, that's the lipedema weight. It's other weight that comes on with it because you're not exercising, because you're perhaps eating grains that are toxic to the lymphatics, all the other things. Okay, so you need to claw that back and stop it from progressing. I have seen women in the shops that lean on the trolleys while they're doing the groceries, and I can see very clearly they have lipedema. Whether they know they have lipedema or not, I don't know. I'm still at that point where I want to rush up and say, tap them on the shoulder and say, do you know that this is what you've got? But then for most people, if you can't afford liposuction, what are you going to do about it? What is there to do about it? Most of our doctors don't even know what it is. So I struggle with that, but I see women who are struggling and walking around leaning on the trolleys, and you can see the walking stick in the trolley for when they don't have the trolley. If you're not at that point yet, please move. You need to move. If you hate it like I do, I get it. Employ somebody, and I say employ, but find somebody like my husband who just like, nope, you're going to do this, but still do it in the parameters of what you can handle, but try and just improve a little bit every day. I hate exercise just like you do, but I'll walk through the shops. I will walk all over Asia. And that's what I have going for me with our new life when we get there, is that I will walk all over Bangkok. I will walk all over Singapore, whatever it is, because it's interesting, something to look at. And that's what will keep me from having the lipedema progress as time goes by, which is my main goal. It used to be to reduce my thyroid medication and get completely off it. Right now, that to me is not as important as keeping the lipedema at bay. If you've got other exercises that you do that don't hurt you, please share it with us all. We all need different ideas, different concepts to help us get healthier.